Hey guys, it's Vampire Mike from Sega CD Universe. So I wanted to do a quick overview, review, synopsis of a movie I just finished watching called Door 1 of the 5 Doors to Hell. So Chuck Connery is an independent filmmaker who has a website called zombiesdon'trun.net. He also has a YouTube channel, which I'm going to link down in the description. I totally recommend you check him out. He is a horror aficionado. He collects all types of Blu-rays, DVDs, and possibly VHS tapes, I can't recall, and reviews them, and he's a very likable, nice guy. So I've been following, I saw that Chuck had made an independent film called Morbid, and I was talking to him about it, and he said, keep an eye out, I have a new movie coming out soon. So I've been writing back and forth with him, and as I said, he's very kind, and he said, I'll shoot you over a copy you can review for YouTube, so I wanted to definitely talk about this. Chuck told me he made this over the course of 6 months with his friends and for a few $100s. The budget wasn't big, so keep that in mind if you do see this film. This isn't a big budget film, this is an independent release, and I don't even mean independent like The Barn where they had like, I think it was $1 million. This is low budget, but done well with some good humor. So Chuck and I have been conversating tonight, and I just wanted to name each segment of the movie and then tell you a little bit about it. So, the movie cover, first off, looks like an old VHS tape with like a torn cover, like a label ripping off, and like a cheesy, not a cheesy skull, but, you know, a very simplistic skull. And I really like that. I think that's really cool. This is a horror anthology film, sort of in the vein of like Southbound, VHS, or even to a degree the ABCs of Death, which I wasn't a big fan of, but I did like VHS and Southbound. So, what a horror anthology is it's different segments, and then sometimes they wrap together. Usually in the VHS movies, if I recall, they end up wrapping together in some way. It also has that feeling kind of like Beyond the Gates, if anyone's seen that, where they're putting in a VHS tape and something's happening and they're kind of getting sucked in. So these 4 friends, it's 2 girls and 2 guys, start out in this video store, and they're hassling the owner of the store, kind of like teasing him and trying to find out what to watch. And the girls are kind of like getting annoyed at this point, and they like, please, the guy's name is Lewis, please Lewis, figure out where they can rent because we're just sick of being here. So the guy's like, well, have you seen this? And he starts naming all these classics, like, oh, we own all those. He's like, well, what about these independent films? And they, you know, we've seen those. So he starts to get kind of annoyed with them. They won't leave. You know, they've been there the past few weekends, they won't leave, or they're making them stay open late. And he hands them this VHS tape. And they sort of make fun, they poke fun, and he sort of has a little bit of an underhandedness to him when he hands it to them, you could tell. And he says a couple things. So they bring this VHS tape home and pop it in, and there's an evil character who pops up on the screen, and he sucks each of them one by one into a segment of the VHS tape to try and kill them. That's the overview pretty much of the film. I really like the interactions between the actors. I thought some of them were very funny. There's this one scene at the beginning where they're going to put the VHS tape in and they pause it, and the one guy's in the kitchen making popcorn, and the other guy yells like, by the time you're done with that popcorn, he said something like, the last time you made popcorn, Bush was in office. The guy goes, what? Bush? What? And he goes, yeah, your mom's Bush. And I just started laughing because I like that kind of humor. I like raunchy humor. I like witty humor. It sort of reminded me of like Napoleon Dynamite when Kip is in the living room and he yells, your mom goes to college. So that was funny to me. There also is a lot of little things thrown in with other horror movie titles or quips and jokes that sort of have references to other films, which I like. I like when movies don't take themselves too serious or they throw in little homages, at least verbally, to other movies. I know they mentioned The Witch, Return of the Living Dead, and a few others. So, one of the characters gets sucked into the movie, and it's the blonde girl. The actress's name is Blaine Gilliam, kind of like Terry Gilliam, who I love. And she gets sucked into this first scene. The scene is called The Mongoloid, and it's sort of like a Hills Have Eyes type of thing. There's this Mongoloid who lives in the shed outside. His cousins seem to kind of make fun of him and abuse him, and he is, you know, killing people and capturing them, I would assume raping them. He's trying to play a board game with her at one point. The only thing negative I would say about this scene was that even if you know you're getting sucked into a tape, which at this point, since it's the first skit or first segment, they wouldn't know this. They wouldn't know they were really, excuse me, getting sucked in. I felt like the main character, Blaine, that's the actress's name, not, I forget what the character's name is, it might have been Megan. She wasn't scared enough. Her boyfriend gets killed, she's trapped and her hands are tied. She's not screaming, she's not yelling, she's not flipping out. She was a little too cool demeanor-wise for me, but otherwise it was very funny. So anyhow, I don't want to give away too much of each segment because then I'll ruin it, but she has to now make her way away from the inbred guy and his two cousins to try and get out and, you know, make it back to the real world. If they don't make it back and they get killed, that's it, they disappear, they die in real life, however you want to put it. So the second segment of the film was called Ghost Car, and to be honest, and I hope Chuck doesn't take this the wrong way, this is probably my least favorite segment. This one involves this ghost car that goes down the road and kills people. They're trying to pin it on this other guy at the beginning, and they start unraveling it, they get a psychic, they start trying to figure out the mystery of who's in this ghost car. They do. There's sort of this twist at the end that I really didn't love, but it was alright. It wasn't bad by any means. And, you know, as I said again, you have to see if the guy makes it out, or girl, and makes it out of the world, out of the VHS tape. And throughout the movie, there's like the, you know, the fake static lines and the tracking going up and down, which I thought was a great flavor to add into the film. I always enjoy when they do that. So besides the cover having that VHS flair to it, the movie itself does as well. Excuse me. So the third segment in the movie was called Dingus of Death, which totally reminded me of Steve Brule, because he calls everyone Dingus. And this one was one of the characters gets sucked into the segment, and there's a guy who goes to sleep with a girl on prom night. He's not up to snuff, and she starts making fun of him. So he's trying to create something to make his penis bigger so he can go back and sleep with her and kind of like show her who's boss. And instead it turns him into a giant penis. So out of all of them, this is definitely by far the goofiest one. The penis is kind of shooting, you know, semen at people. I think at one point it's burning people's faces off and stuff. And really goofy, very, very Troma-esque, if you will, even though Troma has a much bigger budget, I would assume, than what Chuck works with. Keep that in mind when you're watching this. It's funny and it's a cool anthology, and I think this is a labor of love from Chuck. But he spent about, like, you know, a few $100s, whatever, $500. This isn't something, even though it reminds me of Troma and it reminds me of like low budget horror, it's not going to be as up to snuff in terms of like the CG and all the effects. But the effects were pretty cool too. I thought some of the special effects were good, the practical effects. So anyhow, they have to then stop this humongous penis, never thought I'd be saying that on YouTube, and escape to you know, complete that segment. The final segment is called, glad I wrote these down, thank you Chuck, Dead Ending. And this one is the girl from, you know, the skit gets sucked in, and she goes to her sister's house, and I think the sister's friend works for the government, and she has this substance that brings dead people back to life. So zombies start coming back to life after people die. The only thing I would say about this segment that I didn't like was there was one angle they used where they were talking to these two guys that were trying to hold up these people for the substance in a car, and the angle was kind of weird. Excuse me. My nose is very stuffy. So the angle was a little weird. And that probably was the only time I say the angle was sort of strange. There was one in the ghost car one that was very high up, so it looked like the person was very short, or maybe they were short, but I could see where Chuck was going with this, and I think he's really developing, and you can see the movie, if he had the budget, I could see this being like a grander thing than it really was. But for what he spent and what he did, I thought he did a great job. So anyway, there's zombies, and this substance is bringing the people back to life as zombies, and she's trying to you know, fight her way out and escape. So that's pretty much the gist of, I'm going to say the movie wrong, so that's why I'm making sure I say it right. Door 1 of the 5 Doors to Hell by Chuck Connery, I would say if you like low-budget horror, if you do enjoy things like Trauma, I would definitely throw this on with some friends for a late-night viewing to, you know, laugh at some of the funny stuff, and because the movie doesn't really take itself seriously. You know, it's not like a horror movie that you're going to get scared of. It has more of a very tongue-in-cheek-esque kind of humor to it, and I appreciate that, and I think my friends would laugh at something like this in terms of the humor that Chuck put throughout. I think he's got some really good ideas. I think that for the money he worked with, he did well. I thought at the end in the Living Dead skit, or Return of the Dead, some of the special effects looked pretty cool, and some of the characters really likable. I thought that the actors jived together really well, and being, you know, boyfriend and girlfriend, I thought that they worked out well. Maybe some of them are boyfriend and girlfriend in real life, and I know Chuck put himself in the film a couple times as well, and I thought he was really funny too. So maybe one day Chuck will let me do a scene over the phone, or, you know, a skit where he makes a phone call and I have to film myself on the phone, because I would love to be in one of his independent films. So as long as you go in with the right expectations, understanding this is low budget, but it is in the vein of like a goofy horror movie, sort of like Trauma with a VHS or Southbound kind of wrapping, I think you'll probably enjoy this. It's a cool film. I'm going to put a link down in the description where you can buy the DVD and the Blu-ray. And I want to say thank you again to Chuck for sending me a copy to watch tonight, because it was perfect timing. I didn't have anything going on and I really wanted to watch a movie. So thanks guys for watching. Thank you, Chuck. Keep an eye out on this guy, because in the future I have a feeling he's going to really have some bigger things coming his way. It's Vampire Mike from Sega CD Universe. Be good.